welcome to another edition of the show. We're delighted to have with us here today Dr. Atul Mehta. Atul's had a full career, but I'll let Atul explain and give his own intro. So, Atul, welcome to the show. Thank you for doing this. Pleasure having you.
Thanks.
Would you tell our wider audience what your journey thus far has been?
Yeah, thanks, Rajat. Thanks for having me over. So, I am perhaps one of the most stereotyped and one of the most boring career journeys that I started with. An engineer who never wanted to be an engineer, and but was done because option nahi tha. So, did my engineering from PEC Chandigarh, but had very wonderful 4 years there. बहुत मस्ती किया. उसके बाद MBA was always on top of my mind. So back of my mind, basically wanted to do an MBA. Then landed up at a time Ahmedabad where I had the pleasure of meeting stalwarts like yourself. Okay, and so graduated in '07. So it's been 16 years since then. I mean, it looks like a long time, and sometimes I start thinking of myself very old. 16 years I've done my MBA. So 16 years. First 8 years were in consulting, PwC plus KPMG. So worked across domains from FMCG to manufacturing to the government domain to telecom. Had two stints in the Middle East also, Kuwait and Qatar, 1 year each, both clients actually. And after 8 years of consulting, I entered fintech. Okay, and fintech was more another good friend of yours and mine, Nitin, the founder of PayU at that time, now with Unicards. He was the one who I accidentally met because I wanted some business for KPMG. We got into a conversation and I joined PayU under his guidance. Was with PayU for 1 year, MobiQuick for another year, and Razorpay for the last 6 years now. Okay, and in fact, I very recently moved out of Razorpay last week only. So this is my first official any podcast or anything after moving out of Razorpay. But Razorpay has been a great journey. I've actually seen fintech orgs grow, fintech of India shape up. Worked with wonderful, absolutely amazing people: Harshil, Shashank, Rahul, Arif, Arpit, Sagar, Ayush. The list goes on. I mean, I can name 100 odd interesting, absolutely wonderful chaps I've worked with in Razorpay. So that's been my journey. Still, as we spoke yesterday, still I have not decided on my next step, and maybe a couple of weeks or a month down the line, I should be with someone else, but it will be fintech only because this is too good and too, I'll say, exciting a sector to miss out. I mean, after having spent 8 years in this, having seen the sector literally grow, I think it's the right reason for me to even think of any other. So that's my long
Absolutely.
story, not so short.
No, it's this covers absolutely nothing of what you've done because I think while we can all, I mean, it's abundantly clear that you are about as much of a fintech expert as anybody can ever expect to be, but that's not even the most interesting thing about you, right? I think the most interesting thing possibly that one can look at if they know you or if they don't even looking at your LinkedIn profile. I think the most interesting thing is you call yourself an FMCG. Tell us about that.
That's interesting. That's a term that I coined for myself. I call myself an FMCG friend, mentor, coach, guide.
Hmm.
This is my deep, I will not say interest or hobby. It's more a kida. It's a disorder
Hmm.
sort of a thing that I love teaching and love sharing my knowledge. In fact,
Hmm.
I've been teaching from my engineering third year. That's when I started teaching. The first teaching that I did was I took tuitions of some village guys, two boys who wanted to clear their English exam, and I helped them clear it. That was my first test with teaching. Then in IIM Ahmedabad in second year, I started taking classes for cat coaching. Basically, I worked basically as in along with my full-time job. I used to do a weekend or a late evening sort of a cat classes. This was with time Ahmedabad and then the time Gurgaon and time Delhi also. Cat coaching, I stopped taking cat coaching. I means taking classes for cat because I thought it was becoming too stereotyped, and they wanted their own way of teaching. So I've always believed in more. I want to teach my way, because if you give me the book and you tell me this is the way you should teach it, then what am I doing there? So
Hmm.
since 2012 13, I've started teaching at multiple B schools primarily because management or B school teaching is something which I relate to. So I've taught at almost all the major B schools in the country. I am Ahmedabad, I am a regular, and Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Indore, Vizag, Nagpur, Amritsar, the other IIMs I've taught at MDI, FMS, IFT. I recently went to Chinese University, Hong Kong also to teach Indian fintech there. And so that's something. And I Masters Union School of Business. So I keep teaching, and and I also talk at multiple industry forums, where I used to, represent at times Razorpay, at times I used to go in my personal capacity. Because I feel there's a lot of knowledge to be shared and lot of things that you or I, for that matter, take for granted. And it's like, people outside this forum or people outside our audience, for them, it is like it will take them maybe 8 hours or 8 weeks to understand what you can teach in 2, 3, 4 hours max. And I'm not saying that I give some shortcuts or anything. No, I just blend my practical examples with whatever theory I've studied. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and in fact, during the time I come to office, I have to go back. I do at least 2 podcasts every day, and I keep imbibing those things in whatever I teach or whatever I say. So that's why I call myself an FMCG, a friend mentor coach.
Super. But I know that doesn't even cover all of it because this is a lot of one to many that you're doing, but you tend to do a lot of one to one work as well. And I've seen so common thread that I can actually see, right? You work with Pay in the past, you work with Razorpay, and what these I think the biggest strength that these organizations have that they are force multipliers for a lot of the innovation that's happening in this country. But then we're trying to get it to the next set of users, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same theme that I'm seeing in your coaching, in your mentoring, that you had access, you had the privilege of a fantastic education, you've had the privilege of a fantastic experience after that, and you're distilling the learnings from that time, that experience, that journey for the next set of consumers who are essentially the learners at this point.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Yes. So as you rightly said, I do a lot of one to one also. For example, you and I have had multiple discussions on the fintech and how it grows and what can be the levers that you can use to add more value.
Hmm.
So and you rightly said, I always consider myself very lucky that I landed up at the best B school in Asia Pacific. That's what we used to call it. I don't know what are the rankings right now, but of course it was a experience of a lifetime. The faculty, the peer group, the seniors who I met there and who I still continue to talk to or meet. In fact, I'm meeting another one from 2 years our senior today afternoon only for a cup of coffee. I wanted some mentoring or coaching. And as for the organization, yes. So I've worked with some really world-class organizations, be it PwC, KPMG, or Razorpay, or PayU for that matter. And everywhere there have been different learnings. And what I try to do is when I look at these lectures or discussions, I try to encapsulate all of that and give it back. So that's what I think I try to do.
Super. So during your experience in the fintech space, what are the most exciting things that you've seen happen, and what gives you, like you said, the next thing that you will do will definitely be something within the fintech space only. What keeps you so excited about fintech? What are the bigger opportunities that you see, and why is this? Because I wholeheartedly agree, this is the space to be in, right? For us, payments and then greater fintech. But what is it for you, and what have you seen that gives you so much confidence that this is the place to be for the next n number of years?
Yeah, so many people feel that Indian fintech is right now perhaps the leading in the world.
Hmm,
But as I always say, कभी तो party शुरू भी नहीं हुई यार. अभी तो
exactly.
we've not even
Absolutely.
started. We are processing what $6 to $7 trillion of payments digitally, or money movement digitally every year.
Hmm,
India has a $4 trillion GDP. 15x of that is the money that changes hands every. So $60 trillion changes hands every year. Out of that, only 6 or 7 is digital.
hmm,
54 is still outside the ambit of what the fintechs today can even think of. And this is just money movement. There is
yeah.
so much else to be done, loyalty or customer analytics or pricing or discounting or financing, or I mean, you name it. Because understand this thing, forget about fintech or forget about digital. The world moves around exchange of goods or services. That's what everybody does.
Hmm,
For exchange of goods or services, we started with the barter system.
hmm,
Then we moved to currency. now Bitcoin next, right? But everywhere there has to be something in lieu of those goods or services that has to change hands,
Yeah.
and which is money. And the movement of money is actually the core crux of mankind, if I may use that term.
Okay.
Because if the money stops moving, if money stops changing hands, the world will stop. And we've had multiple evolutions of this money movement. As I told you, started with barter system, then we started printing currencies, then the currencies started becoming interoperable, then the forex and everything. Today you don't even need to physically transfer checks, or physically transfer money, or the currency, etc. So that is something which is actually the future of fintech, that we
Okay.
should not be printing currency notes. I mean,
Hmm.
India spends around 1.8 to 2% of GDP just on printing currency notes. USA spends less than a percent. We are wasting money on printing currency. Why should you print currency notes here? Just transfer that money. Currency note is nothing but a piece of paper on which is signed by the RBI governor that I promise to pay the bearer a sum of so and so rupees. So it is
Yeah.
actually the trust part in that which is getting transferred. If you
Hmm.
can transfer that money digitally, you don't need.
Is that a sly endorsement of the CBDC or more of
Yeah,
Bitcoin?
CBDC is another one mode of, that's good. The central bank has also figured out that we don't need to print it. Why not go digital? UPI,
Hmm.
yeah. Think of it. We've made you know, it's like life changing sort of a ecosystem that we built around UPI.
Hmm.
Today, you sitting what, 2 hours away from me right now.
Hmm.
If you want
Yeah.
100 rupees or 500 rupees or 1 lakh rupees, it won't take me even 2 seconds to send it to you.
Yeah.
Imagine, and this is 24/7, by the way.
Hmm.
So that's how easy life has become because of this. And as I told you, it's not even the starting yet. We've still not explored multiple use cases. Yeah, multiple use cases.
Hmm.
And
So
people think of fintech only as money coming in, money going out, money changing hands, everything. That's immense. So,
I
you know,
I'm very excited by the amount of excitement in your this thing because you're unable to cover how big the opportunity is. You're actually frustrated by your inability to communicate how big the opportunity is,
yeah, yeah.
and I absolutely
And
feel the
that,
same
that
way.
actually answers your question why I chose to be in fintech and why I'll be in fintech. Because I
Hmm.
feel that it's been 8 years, I have not even learned an iota of what we can do.
Hmm.
There's so much that can be done. So I actually, wherever I go, whenever I talk to students or anybody, I say, boss, I'm not saying that fintech is the only place for career. There are multiple career options outside, but this is actually a very, very serious place which you should think of developing your career.
What was the most exciting thing you've managed to be part of that you feel privileged to have had an experience of?
Multiple things, so there were multiple use cases, like, routing money, like splitting the settlements, multiple modes of payment, upi being introduced, upi intent and upi collect being upi 2.0.
Hmm.
And then, tpv on dc. I know all this is technical jargon, and I don't have that much time to understand this. I can take a full day course on this, on what
Yeah.
fintech is and how it is
Yeah.
revolutionizing the world. But I would say there's so much happening almost every day,
Hmm.
that every day you wake up, you see, oh, good, this is a new thing, let me go learn it.
So somebody like Atul, who has so much experience, he's sitting here saying, "Yeah, I have not even like the tip of the iceberg as far as
Yes,
fintech
yes,
opportunity goes." So let me
yes.
ask you this: so who has, in your understanding, what would be the position for the kind of entity or persons who would have the best view on what the future in fintech in India is going to be?
So multiple people
Hmm.
have multiple views, and I
Hmm.
personally feel there are four parties in this whole ecosystem. There
Okay.
is the banks and the service providers. Okay, these include all the banks, Visa, Mastercard, NPCI, the service providers.
Hmm.
There are the
Yes.
merchants or the businesses. This businesses can be as big as, say, an Amazon or a Flipkart or an IRCTC. It can be as small as, say, rajatgulati.com. I'm just
Hmm. Yeah.
making a name, who's doing some freelancing or something, or who is selling maybe say pens. Okay, so these are businesses. They're the end
mm,
customers, people like you and me. The third bucket. The fourth bucket is the fintechs who are acting as an interface, who are bringing all
mm,
these players under one roof and giving the services to merchants. So these are the four parties, and on top of it is the government or the regulatory authorities.
mm,
Okay, and everybody has a different viewpoint, everybody has a different vested interest why this should grow.
mm,
Why will the service providers want it to grow? It's their bread and butter. Yeah, there are multiple people who ask me at various forums, are banks your competition? I said no, they are our friends.
mm,
Banks actually want the whole thing to be digital, because every time you walk into a bank, it's a loss making thing for the bank. The
mm,
no bank wants you to come to the branch. Okay,
mm,
the merchants want everything to be digital, because again it's a very narrow mindset that, you say that, when somebody gives me 100 rupees cash, I get 100 rupees. If you pay me through credit card, I get 98 rupees. So 2 rupees
mm,
ka loss nahi hua boss. Cash handling cost is around 4 to 5%. That includes the time taken to count that cash, the counterfeit currency, the lost money, the exact change problem. Imagine you go to a shop, the bill is 103 rupees, you coolly pay 100 rupees and walk off. Or 97 rupees, and you get those three toffees and you have to eat them even if you don't want to. So you're actually paying 3% cost without you even realizing what you are doing.
mm,
Okay. So the merchants want it, the customers anyways want it, because I don't want to go to market with a pile of cash, or don't want to withdraw money from the ATM every time. The fintech players want it, and the government anyways want it, the regulatory authorities want it, because that
mm.
this gives you the trail, this stops the counterfeit currency. So it's the interest of everyone for this sector to grow.
Yes, but they all have different views on
They
how they would
all
like
have
the sector
different
to grow.
views. You're right, they all have different views, and they all have different needs also. I'll just tell you, all the payments that you or I do are of two
Mm,
types: compulsory and optional.
yes,
And I'll tell you what they are. Compulsory is all your fees, all your bills, and all the taxes. Optional is your shopping.
yes,
I live in Gurgaon. The electricity board is DHBVN, so I have to pay the bill to DHBVN no matter whether I like the system or not. I can't say that from tomorrow I'll pay the bill to BSCS. Unka bill payment system bahut acha. That's not. Those are the compulsive merchants. Optional is the likes of Amazon, Flipkart, etc. Okay, if you want to buy a phone from Amazon, you may buy the same phone from Amazon, same from Flipkart, same phone from a shop next door, or not buy that phone at all. So that's an optional spend. That's a shopping. There's a payment or bill payment, and there's a shopping. So
yes,
now customers, merchants in both of them have different viewpoints. The compulsive merchant wants the settlement to come on time, the costs to be minimal. The optional player or the shopping player wants the experience to be world class, because people might choose to shop or not shop on a platform because of the payment experience. So that's what it is. I mean, just as I told you, this is a very very long description. I can tell you about, what an e-commerce merchant wants, what an education merchant wants, what a government merchant wants, what a fintech financial services merchant wants, what an insurance player wants. So I mean, again, this is again is a full blown lecture.
no, no, absolutely. So we operate, for example, in the compulsory transactions space, right? We're a bill
I,
payments TSP,
I
so
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. We're very bullish about it because till now, the biggest category, for example, under BBPS is electricity. So you also naturally gravitated to the electricity bill. 41% of all bills paid on BBPS are electricity bills, and this represents only 3% of electricity bills in India. So imagine the
Yeah.
blue sky opportunity in the country for categories that are not even on the platform, and
Yes.
new categories are being added all the time. So every day is a day of discovery of just the untapped opportunity within the space.
Yes.
You pick a lane, you deep dive into it, and you realize in India this is still blue sky. This is still an open opportunity. There is
Yes.
so much
Yes.
that can be done here.
Yes. That's what I said. अभी तो party शुरू भी नहीं हुई यार.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is the sentiment that we also have. अभी party शुरू भी नहीं हुई है. Fantastic. So, in making a decision for what's next for Atul, what is your framework? What are the priorities? What are the criteria?
Okay, two things. One, I'm absolutely clear that I'm not starting anything on my own. Many people are asking
हमारी
about.
गलतियों से सीख रहे हो तुम.
No, it's not that, Rajat. It's a mindset thing. I've
Hmm.
always believed in an entrepreneur mindset that I own the part of the business that I do. I don't
And
want
I
to
can
own.
testify to that, that at Razorpay, sales was Atul. So we've always thought of, and you've been our interface with Razorpay, and we work very closely with Razorpay. But you've been our way in, you've been our Spock without necessarily being official. I can easily testify that when you're inside an organization, you represent it like almost nobody else can. So I completely testify to that mindset, the entrepreneur mindset.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That I've always believed that I am an entrepreneur. So I'm not starting anything on my own. On my own,
Hmm.
many people are
Hmm.
asking me what helps me decide where to go to is what I
Hmm.
call the 4 P's of a job: people, place, profile,
Okay.
package. So
People,
people I'm
place,
working with,
profile, and package. Yes.
yeah, people I'm working with, that's the most important P, I would say.
Hmm.
And place, I mean, that's an easy thing for me because for me NCR is a compulsion and not an option. So
Okay.
I won't leave the NCR, whatever you talk of pollution or whatever it is. ठीक है, हर जगह ये problems
Okay.
अपनी अपनी. The profile is also very interesting because that shows me what value am I adding, what difference am I making.
Hmm.
Package, of course, money is a big factor, but I mean, after some time you stop attaching that much importance. And I'm not demeaning anybody who's thinking of money as being the deciding factor, but keep it as a last P. Don't decide on money, because if you decide on money you might have to regret later on that the package that you are getting is not complete. Most of the
Hmm.
people confuse the salary that they get with the package. The
Hmm.
package, okay, understand this thing, salary is just a part of the package that you are getting. I mean, you might be getting a lot of facilities, etc., and I'll not go into the details of that because else it will sound like a job interview. Okay, so but I feel that for me these 4 P's have been my deciding every time I've decided to change or something. But
Deep.
once you're in, then you are in, then you own it. The
So
next job
let
comes.
me come back to the first P. You said which was the most important, which is the people. Now, right. So today, if you start sort of figuring out this is the new destination for me, how do you make sure before committing that the people are the right people? They're good people to work with. How do
Yeah,
you
very
measure?
good question. First, I meet them at least twice, thrice, and for longish durations, because then you get those hints. The more you talk, the more you get those hints, and you also do some ref checks
Hmm.
and try to do a ref check with somebody who's worked with that person. I
Hmm.
mean, not just any acquaintance. I mean, somebody who's worked. So that's how. And then after so many years, you get that gut feeling. Also, I
Have you
believe a
ever
lot.
had an opportunity where you met somebody, maybe your gut was either ambiguous or you said seems okay, but then a rep check came back negative, or for some reason you said not the right person to work? What are those red
Yeah,
flags?
so there are times where I've especially at when you do leadership hiring, you don't need to be impulsive, but you can't be very slow and lax.
Yeah.
You need to be responsive, you need to send the feelers. That's very important. And so पता चल जाता है यार, मतलब अभी इतने टाइम बाद मुश्किल है आपको,
No, no,
मतलब
but
आप.
I want you to put on your teaching hat. यहाँ पे how would you encapsulate that knowledge and pass it on to somebody who was in the same position maybe tomorrow?
Yeah, so I would say that look out for feelers, go to the office that you'll be working in, and in generally you'll feel a sense of happiness or sense of sadness on the floor.
Hmm.
I somehow, because of my consulting days, where I work with almost a new client every 6-8 months, a new office every 6-8 months, I actually can feel the happiness or the sadness on the floor.
Hmm.
If the floor is happy, then you'll also be happy once you come there.
Super. That is useful. Super. I have to ask, you're not directly connected to Plutus One, but you're aware of what we do. What are your thoughts on the space? What are your thoughts on the company? Any feedback there?
Who told you I'm not directly connected?
No,
That is
no.
like no, that's a wrong statement, folks. I am absolutely directly connected to Pluto's one.
हाँ, ठीक है.
But
Then in that capacity, what are your thoughts?
it's a wonderful place that you are in, a wonderful problem that you are solving, and the big problem that you are solving. And as you said, कि I'll keep on coming to the party should be new year. एक एरिया पकड़ो और उसमें एक्सेल कर जाओ या फिर जर्नलिस्ट बन जाओ जो भी बनो बट अच्छा करो दिस इज वन थिंग विच माय डैड ऑलवेज यूज्ड टू से मे हिज सोल रेस्ट इन पीस ही ऑलवेज यूज्ड टू से दैट जो भी करो ना अच्छे से करो हल्दीराम ने भुजिया बनाना शुरू किया भुजिया बहुत अच्छी बनाई लुक वेयर हल्दीराम से टुडे बिस्लरी ने पानी बनाना शुरू किया पानी बहुत अच्छे से बनाया लुक वेयर बिस्लरी इज टुडे तो एक चीज पकड़ो कॉम्पिटेंसी बनाओ और एक्सेल करो उसमें उसके बाद आप नर्चर आउट कर सकते हो बट पहले अपनी एक कोर कॉम्पिटेंसी ढूंढो काफी लोग ये बोलते हैं सर मेरे को ना सब कुछ आता है मैं कहता दैट मींस आपको कुछ नहीं आता आपको एक चीज सो प्लूटोस वन हैज फिगर्ड आउट अ वेरी deep problem statement which you folks are solving I'm sure you gonna not only excel you will be super successful in this
We have, as far as we've come on the back of support of friends like you, and we will continue to depend on your support. And we wish you
always
the very best for your future. We know that it will be as bright, if not brighter, than what your past experience has been. Right?
sure
All the best. Thank you so much for your time.
thank you very much thanks